I'll call this meeting to order, and we'll go down to Section 2, Approval of Agenda, 2.1, Changes to Agenda and Approval of Agenda. I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Mr. Destin makes a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
And a second by Dr. White. Any discussion or changes? Hearing none, Mr. Destin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. White, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. Kelly, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Ivanchek, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I vote yes. The motion carries 5-0. So we are now at recognitions, 3.1, recognition of the 2019-2020 Kids Tag Art Choice Award winners presented by the Honorable Mr. Ben Anderson, our Okaloosa County tax collector. Mr. Anderson, thank you for being here tonight.
Good evening to each of you. Thank you for having us here. It's been a year of a lot of interest and challenges as we've gone through the year, and I think we had this originally scheduled probably in April. And so it's been interesting working with Mrs. Gates. As each time we get to something, there's always something else. So I'll be quick, not to take too much of your time, and just want to share a few things. And I don't know if we've got these handouts, Sherry? They all have those. So you have two handouts in your package. But this program of Kids Tag Art began back in 2012-13 school year. And it's a program where the tax collectors and the school district work together. And it's been really an interesting ride. It's a good thing. You know, every now and then we have so many things that we do and we work hard, but some things have that just extra little sense of being, well, that's just pretty nice that it is. So when we began with 10 schools, and with the help of Superintendent Chambers, this past year, we had 18 schools participate. And that's really quite a bit of growth that we've had. And I'll go through these charts here in just a moment, but we really want to put a perspective to this. When you think Kids Tag Art, it's really designed for the 5th grade. And you think of the number of students that you have in 5th grade that have an opportunity to this all across the county. And then to add to it, there's a few schools like Edge Elementary, they open it up to their entire student body. And what a great fundraising it's been to them. So we look at the program of Kids Tag Art is about the creation of art, or really I like to say the arts. There was a period of time at Kenwood Elementary where they were focused on the horns and strings, and they could use that money into a music program if they chose. So what we leave is up to each school the decisions and the choices of how they use the money. If they want to use it for art, that's fine. Music, that's fine. If they were doing the sciences, that's fine with us. What it really boils down to is the Kids Tag Art program is non-tax revenues to these schools. No tax money. This is all something that is created and generated through the efforts of the children, the participation of the parents and the grandparents and the teachers that supervise it, but then also the schools do have a little bit of business that they have to conduct, and that is selling the tags. And the way the program works is each child is able to design their own tag, and then it's up to them to sell them. You know, it's to the parents, the teachers help, and in that program they work directly with the printers. We sell the tags, they sell the tags for about $15, $16. They keep about half of that in their fundraising. And you can see on the chart that you have says Kids Tag Art, excuse me, that's 5 years worth of history that you have on it. All the way in the very left are the schools that participate, and then you have 2015, 16, 17, 18, and over on the very right, which is this year, you can see that it's the 19-20 year. So with the 19-20 year, if you go to that bold mark and come down, you can see that there were 900, let me get my glasses, I think 47 tags that were sold, but that's not all the students that participated. That's what was actually sold, and that shows the end result of their art being sold within the school. This chart, as Sherry Bruns puts together, breaks it down to all schools and the participation that you have in those schools. There's a couple noteworthy. If you look at Northwood Elementary and Crestview, they sold 202 tags, and they generated $1,702. And then up in Edge Elementary, which is always right there at the top of participation, 146 tags. And then down at Shalimar Elementary, which has had a number of our winners, they've got a good art support team program there, 113 tags. What I'd like for you to do too is look at one of our new schools this year. And right below Shalimar Elementary, you see we have Silver Sands. They sold 8. They created 7, excuse me. And this was their first year doing it. What makes this unique in this program is it's for all students. It's for all children. And again, it's non-tax revenues that are going to work in the availability of programs that might not be available in the school system. So we're very proud of that. And this year, again, looking at the total numbers that were sold, if you slid across the chart, you can see how we've grown every year. From in the 573 and 15 to where we are this year at 947. Again, we want to thank Superintendent Chambers because he encouraged more schools to participate in a program that just generates funds to them. And we hope to continue to grow that and make it available to even more of the elementary schools that we have there. But you slide over to the very right column there, and you see at the bottom of what was generated this year alone, and it's almost $20,000. So it's been a very, very successful program. And you can see in the big red at the bottom, history of total distributions, 83,847. We're approaching 84,000. But with another good year and your support as a school board with the superintendent, we hope to bump $100,000 of what this program has generated in non-tax revenues to the school system. And then the other sheet that you have for you that represent really different districts, but all students, it gives you an idea of your districts in Destin. We've got Destin Elementary, and again, Destin Middle School, which is one of the unique schools in the county with a 5th grade. So we didn't just exclude the elementary, we give an opportunity to earn funds at both levels there. Crestview, as you see, has always been very active, and as we mentioned, Northwood was the leader that we had last year. So it's been a very good year, and many schools. I'm always pleased to have Elliott Point in there. They're a school that has some fiscal challenges, but again, what you see if you came across theirs, I think they sold only 6 tags. Let me see if I've got Elliott Point right. 8 tags, but they will share in what we have with sponsors, good sponsors like the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Department. And we have also down there with our sponsors, Jenkins Engineering and Corporate Benefits. But they participated, so they're in Elliott Point, they will receive $742 through corporate sponsors and participation. And as you can see, whether you have 200 participating that sold tags or you have 7 or 8, you're still going to share in the corporate sponsorship. So it's a real win-win program, and it's a win for the school system. But we thank you for giving us the opportunity to work with you, the good school board that you are. The many challenges, like I said, this is just one of those. It's kind of just a good freebie there. Works good. In talking with Mrs. Gates, you've got it. So we're first up. We're going to bring in, tonight we have three award winners. These are the choice awards. You have a tax collector choice, the superintendent of schools choice, and the sheriff's choice. And again, we have Sheriff-elect Eric Aiden will represent the Sheriff's Department. So we'd like to ask them to come forward, and we'll take a picture with them. And then also, Superintendent, if you would please come up and be in each of these pictures too. We'll duplicate you on your picture. So, but I'd like, for the tax collector's choice, we have Anna Hudman from Liza Jackson School.
Let's show what she did.
This is Anna's tag.
Wow. That is
And this will
awesome.
go on the front of one of our vehicles. Well, the one I drive doesn't have a place for a tag, but it'll go in front of one of our vehicles, and we'll have it on that vehicle all year long. So thank you, Anna, for that. We appreciate it. And here's your certificate. You could show that. Let's share that with the people that are here.
Should we get the Liza Chambers?
And Superintendent Chambers.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
I think just for social distancing aspect, I might just stand in the
That's
back.
Right.
fine. That's fine.
We'll Photoshop them in there.
He thought it was a challenge, but to be taller than me, so let's you and I stand back. just a little bit closer.
Don't get assistant principal and
Good. So y'all slide in and come over
Yes.
this way a little bit? How's that?
That'll work.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you see us smiling?
Yep, right here.
All good.
Leah and Joy, can y'all stay there?
Yes,
We'll bring it
absolutely.
up. Oh, I put it up there. You've got the next certificate up there. They're both from Liza Jackson up here. We could do them both at the same time. Right there.
Oh, well, we can do that. I do. We have Emily. Excuse me, Emily Alders. Did I say that right this time?
You
Emily?
got it.
Well, so hard trying to get through it. I'm sorry, I messed up your name. But you, well, you had me straightened out with the last
This
name.
is her tag. And we need the sheriff up here because this was the sheriff's choice award.
Right. Sheriff Aiden?
Mr. Anderson. Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
Let's see if we can.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And if you'll hold your certificate up so everybody can see it. Don't text and die, this is what her code says.
Congratulations. Almost good at one, and then we'll bring you guys in.
Yes.
All right. Great, thank you. Great, grab the board.
She's got the official.
And then if y'all could jump back in there.
Okay, you all slide back in,
Yeah.
if you would.
Can we get both of them in for a picture? Yes, that's what I'd like to do. So let's get this one. I'm not flashing, so you can. Okay. And Anna, can you jump back in there?
Slide Anna right there, how about that?
Thank you so much. Liza Jackson, well represented today.
Yeah. Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
And then for the superintendent's choice, we have Sophia Russo from Florosa Elementary. She's still outside, but we'll get her in.
We had to let him out so we could. And we'll do the check presentation. We did bring checks for those two schools afterwards. This is-
Yeah, they're checking
I do. That's the Superintendent's Choice Award.
And just one thing to mention to you, we have 3 award winners tonight, but there are 35 other students that are on that sheet that we have that we'll be going out individually to those schools to take them their checks. Is this Sophia? How are you doing?
I'm good.
This is, of course, what you drew, and this is your certificate.
Wow,
Isn't that pretty?
it is.
Chambers is who selected your.
Congratulations again, it's awesome.
Thank you so much. It's a great pick, too.
So you're gonna stand next to her? Let me catch you on that one.
Oh, okay.
Let you hold that. It's your choice. Want us to slide over? Come over just a tad. There we go. Oop. Have your mom and pass me. This is part of the history, you know, that we have our mask on.
Stem page then?
Oh, you step in, please. Thank you. Very good.
Congratulations. Multi-talented students at Stafford.
We'll get that to you.
Thank you for being here, Ms. Martin, or Dr. Martin.
Sure, not yet.
And that concludes our report. Again, thank you so much for the opportunity to participate with Kids Tag Art. Thank you.
Mr. Anderson, I would just like to say thank you very much for all that you do to join in with our school district because of you. And Sheriff-elect Aiden, we appreciate you being here tonight. It's just great to see what these kids can do, and it's because of people like you who take a vested interest in our kids to, show off their talents. So-
Yeah, very kind. Thank you very much. We're proud of them.
And I'm just giving little gifts from Crime Stoppers in the sheriff's office.
Thank you.
Look, roll over and
Thank you. Thank you.
thank you so much.
And Mr. Bryant, and if you don't mind as well,
go ahead.
and Mr. Anderson, who's about to head out, Ms. Bruns, and of course Sheriff-elect Aiden. So absolutely appreciate this. And you go all the way back from 2015-16 to date. All the support for this program, it really makes a difference, and it's just another example of how the community really supports the Okaloosa County School District. So thank you again, Mr. Anderson.
All right. So before we get going, I do have to make this announcement. We were a little late starting, so I kind of went ahead and got to where we needed to go with recognitions. But this board meeting is being live streamed for the convenience of the public at okaloosaschools.com. The public may participate in the public comment portions of the meeting by either personal attendance or by calling the school board meeting public participation phone line. A separate seating area has been set aside for the press and public who are in attendance at the meeting in accordance with social distancing guidelines as provided by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. If calling into the meeting, you should call 850-833-3100. The phone lines will be operational beginning at 6 p.m. on the night of the board meeting, and callers will be transferred into the board meeting during the public comment portion and/or public hearing portion of the meeting, or only in the order in which calls are received. If you are calling into the meeting to make public comment, please be patient, as there may be a wait time while being transferred into the meeting. And also, in accordance with the governor's emergency order on elected officials attending meetings, Mr. Destin, Dr. White, and myself are in attendance personally, as well as the superintendent, and Ms. Savanchek and Dr. Kelly are participating via telephone tonight. So now we'll move past, go to Section 4. We have no visitors. Section 5, no administrative personnel appointments. We are at Section 6, public comment, which is 6.1, members of the public desiring to address the school board, Form MIS 5241, public input and/or discussion of agenda items. And we do have one blue card for somebody that is in attendance, Mr. Josh Morris, if we can have him come into the meeting room. And Mr. McInnes, just for the record, if you would just kind of explain the rules for public comments to those that might be calling in via telephone also.
Sure. Under the board's procedures, you'll have 4 minutes to make your presentation to the board.
Okay. Mr. Morris, if you would, please approach the podium. And Mr. Morris, you have spoke before the board before, so you know how we do it. If you would, please state your name and your address for the record, and you'll have 4 minutes to make your presentation.
Yes, sir. Josh Morris, reside here in Niceville. Good to see you all again, and congratulations on successfully opening the schools as everybody was shooting to do. Perhaps COVID wasn't all it was cracked up to be, and schools aren't the locations for the dreaded super spreader events that some envisioned. Perhaps, as the National COVID-19 School Response Data website provides, the infection rate amongst children truly is extremely low. Nationally, from the school return dates of 31 August to 13 September, the student confirmed infection rate was 0.071%, and the staff confirmed infection rate was 0.14%. As of yesterday's data from the Florida Department of Health here in Okaloosa County, only 4.6 of all county COVID cases are attributable to those 0 to 14 years old. September 10th was the worst day this last month for new cases in the county at 49 that day. When factoring that 4.6% infection rate for the 0 to 14-year-olds, that would equate to 2 kids that day. With this type of data in mind, at what point do we as a district start to ease some of the COVID restrictions put in place so our schools and our children can return to normal? So students don't only have to play on their color-coded playground equipment for that day or that week. So students aren't forced to wear masks for specific teachers, else they'd be turned away from the class. So students aren't quarantined for having everyday, run-of-the-mill, sometimes documented acute symptoms such as a cough, sore throat, headache, body aches, abdominal pain, nausea, or a runny nose that get them removed from school until they can return with a positive COVID test or medical clearance. If there isn't something already created behind the scenes, this is to get on the record to highlight the need by the district to create a codified set of standards or benchmarks that, once met, will provide stepped easing of COVID restrictions in schools. The current procedures in place cannot be a new normal, nor expected to remain in place without an attainable end. We must return to normal as it was back in February, or even this time last year. This Pandora's box that's been opened cannot roll along unabated by logic and reason. These procedures and processes cannot be utilized and applied to the flu season every year. These restrictions cannot remain in place in perpetuity and create a generation that lives behind masks and glass barriers. This district should have defined, verifiable benchmarks that, when reached, allow us to curtail these restrictions and allow our children to return to normal. Subsequent to that, it would be nice to see this district data tracked and provided to the public so we know where we as a district stand and where we need to get to. So I'd like to ask you all, are there any standards in place? And along with that, if they are not in place, have they at least been discussed or brought up? I know that it won't be something that's taken care of in one night in one meeting. And I know that you have a COVID board that looks at this as a whole, and you take recommendations from the county Florida Department of Health. But we've got to have something that allow us to ease these restrictions. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. Okay. So do we have anybody on the phone, Dustin? Okay. So we are going to move down to Section 7, Committee and Staff Reports. This was a workshop only. So, board members, we do have 2 meetings that we have on here, one from the meeting that was canceled because of Hurricane Sally. So we're going to do Section 8 by itself, Section 9, Section 10, Section 11, like that. So with that being said, we're at Section 8, Consent Agenda Items Reviewed and Discussed at Workshop September 10th of 2020. 8.1, Approval of the Consent Agenda Items 8.2 through 9.19.
And I will move we approve, Chairman.
Okay. Mr. Destin makes a motion
I'll
to.
second.
And I believe that was Dr. Kelly?
It was, thank you.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Destin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. White, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. Kelly, how do you vote?
Yes,
Ms. Savanchek, how do you vote?
yes,
And I vote yes, and that motion carries 5-0. So now we'll go down to section 9. And 9.1 is approval of the minutes of the school board special meeting of, well, we've already done.
You-
We just,
We cleared 8.2 through 9.19,
We
so
did.
we can move on to section 10.
we did, I'm sorry, you're correct. Okay, so now we're at section 10, Superintendent's Human Resource Recommendations, items reviewed and discussed at workshop September 10th, 2020. So items 10.1 and 10.2 are informational only. So 10.3 is personnel recommendations. I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Mr. Destin makes a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Dr. White got in there, so a motion by Mr. Destin, a second by Dr. White. Any discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Destin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. White, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. Kelly, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Evancheck, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I vote yes, the motion carries 5-0. 10.4, employee transfers. I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
A motion by Mr. Destin. Do I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Second.
I'll second it.
Okay. Dr. Kelly got in on that one, so a motion by Mr. Destin, a second by Dr. Kelly. Any discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Destin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. White, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. Kelly, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Evancheck, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I vote yes, the motion carries 5-0. 10.5, employment separations. I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
A motion by Mr. Destin. Do I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Second, Dr. Kelly. Any discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Destin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. White, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. Kelly, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Evancheck, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Motion carries 5-0. 10.6, out-of-field report for the 2020-2021 school year. I need a motion to approve.
So moved, Chairman.
I'll
Motion.
move it.
Okay, so Mr. Destin made the motion, Ms. Evancheck, I'll give you the second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Destin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. White, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. Kelly, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Evancheck, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I vote yes, the motion carries 5-0. 10.7, leave without pay. I need a motion to approve.
Move it.
Dr. White makes a motion. Do I have a second, please?
Second.
Mr.
I'll
Destin,
second
makes- Mr. Destin made the second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Destin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. White, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. Kelly, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Ms. Evancheck, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I vote yes, the motion carries 5-0. 10.8, reinstatement reimbursement of sick leave due to line of duty, illness, injury, medical examination. I need a motion to approve.
So moved, Chairman.
Mr. Destin makes the motion. Do we have a second, please?
Second.
Second, Dr. White. Any discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Destin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. White, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. Kelly, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Evancheck, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I vote yes, the motion carries 5-0. 10.9, employee suspension. I need a motion to approve.
So moved, Chairman.
Also move.
Mr. Destin makes the motion. Dr. Kelly, I'll give you the second. Any discussion?
That's fine.
Hearing none. Mr. Destin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. White, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. Kelly, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Evancheck, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I vote yes, the motion carries 5-0. 10.10, employee suspension. I need a motion to approve, please.
Move it.
Dr. White makes a motion. Do I have a second, please?
Second.
Mr.
I'll
Destin.
second. I'll second it.
Mr. Destin made the second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Destin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. White, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. Kelly, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Ms. Evancheck, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I vote yes, the motion carries 5-0. 10.12, cleared certification requirements and issuance of contracts for the 2020-21 school year. I need a motion to approve.
Move it.
Dr. White makes the motion. Do I have a second, please?
Second.
Second, Mr. Destin. Any discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Destin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. White, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. Kelly, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Ivanchek, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I vote yes. The motion carries 5-0.
Mr. Chairman, we need to return to 10.11
Okay.
to take that one up.
Did I not do that one?
I think we missed that one.
Okay. I thought okay. So 10.11 is employee suspension. I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
And do I have a second, please?
Second.
Second, Dr. White. Any discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Destin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. White, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. Kelly, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Ivanchek, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I vote yes. The motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Mr. McInnes. 10.12, cleared certification requirements and
We did that one.
We did that one, okay. See,
Sorry.
it's Monday. 11.1 is 11.1 and 11.2 are informational only, so we'll now go to 11.3, cleared certification requirements and issuance of contracts for the 2020-21 school year. I need a motion to approve.
Move it.
Dr. White makes a motion. Do I have a second, please?
Second.
I'll second.
Mr. Destin makes a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Destin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. White, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. Kelly, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Ivanchek, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I vote yes. The motion carries 5-0. 11.4, out-of-field report for the 2020-21 school year. I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Mr. Destin makes a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second, Dr. Kelly. Any discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Destin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. White, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. Kelly, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Ivanchek, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I vote yes. The motion carries 5-0. 11.5, employment separations. I need a motion to approve.
Move it.
Dr. White makes a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second. I'll second it.
Dr. Kelly makes a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Destin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. White, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. Kelly, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Ivanchek, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I vote yes. The motion carries 5-0. 11.6, personnel recommendations. I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Destin. Do I have a second, please?
Second.
Second, Dr. White. Any discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Destin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. White, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. Kelly, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Ivanchek, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. The motion carries 5-0. 11.7, employee transfers. I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Mr. Destin makes a motion. Do I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Dr. Kelly makes a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Destin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. White, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. Kelly, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Ivanchek, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I vote yes. The motion carries 5-0. So discussion agenda, there was nothing moved from to consent. We are now at Section 13, Construction Program Owners Representatives Business, and Mr. Destin, you are up, sir.
Thank you, Chairman. Our last construction meeting was canceled during the hurricane. We will be having another one at the first of this coming month. My only report is that we're moving forward on all our projects and trying to fix the one leaking roof that the hurricane created.
All righty. Well, thank you, Mr. Destin. All right, so now we're down to Section 14, Informational Technology Seat Management Contract Items reviewed and discussed at the workshop. So item 14.1 is task order number 2-166, Okaloosa County School District camera outage repairs at Baker School, Blue Water Elementary, Bob Sykes Elementary, Bruner Middle, and the Central Administrative Complex. And I need a motion to approve this.
Move it.
Dr. White makes a motion. Do I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Second, Dr. Kelly. Any discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Destin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. White, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. Kelly, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Ivanchek, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. The motion carries 5-0. 14.2 is change order number 17 to the IT seat management outsourcing contract modification agreement. COTS. I need a motion to approve, please.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Destin. Do I have a second, please?
Second.
Second, Dr. White. Any discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Destin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. White, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. Kelly, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Ivanchek, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. The motion carries 5-0. Mr. McInnes, you're up, sir.
One item tonight, Mr. Chairman, we would ask your consideration and approval of an agreement with Attorney Robert Sniffen and the firm of Sniffen and Spellman, PA, for professional services.
Okay, so we need a motion to approve that. Do I have a motion?
I'll
Do I-
move we enter into the contract
Okay, so
for
Mr. Destin,
professional services.
Mr. Destin makes a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Dr. White seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Destin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. White, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. Kelly, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Ms. Ivanchek, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. The motion carries 5-0. Mr. Chambers, you're up, sir.
Thank you, sir. As you know, I shared information on Thursday at the workshop regarding several topics, but I do want to just mention just a couple things. So first of all, as we talked about on Thursday about the potential of those students who may be returning back to our schools after the end of the first 9 weeks, one thing we want to make sure that we are is prepared for those students who do come. And what we do not know at this point in time right now is what might the climate in Okaloosa County look like a month from now as it pertains to COVID. So one of the things that we are preparing is Mr. Horton will be preparing, looking at desk shields. We want to make sure that if the climate is similar to where we are right now, that our students who might be returning, that they have desk shields that are prepared for them. As you know, we purchased a large number for the students that were going to be here, and of course we want to make sure that we're prepared for students who might return. So that's one piece right there that I just want to share with the board if you have any thoughts. Okay, and then the second bit of information is just a complete reiteration of Thursday, because I've received more questions, whether it's phone call, whether it's even in the community, about why we have to do a 10-day isolation if someone's positive, or why, if someone becomes a contact, this one's even more so, why they have to be out 14 days. And as you, the board knows, because we've discussed this, this is not a rule that we just came up with in Okaloosa County. This is what our school district, as well as the other 66 school districts across the state of Florida, are following. And we're following the Department of Health. We're following the state of Florida in terms of what happens if you're a contact. And if you are a contact, you're going to be out 14 days. And I know that it's frustrating for families. It's frustrating for the school. Sometimes it's frustrating for just the learning environment. But that is where we are right now in Okaloosa, as well as, once again, the other 66 districts across the state of Florida. So I just wanted just to reiterate that information, and then just once again also put a plug out for just what's happening in Okaloosa County. And you look at, we always talk about these unprecedented times and what our teachers, our administrators, our staff are doing in light of where we are in Okaloosa County and the country. I think it's a testament to the heart of educators, and then also just very much appreciative of the students who are in brick and mortar, as well as the students and families who are doing education on My School Online, and knowing that things aren't necessarily perfect, but working with their teachers, with their schools, with the district to make sure that those students get the very best education that we can provide. So just once again, appreciate all that's going on. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So now we'll move down to school board members' business, and Ms. Ivanchek, I'll start with you on the phone tonight.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a couple of things. First of all, I was excited to see front page today in the Northwest Florida Daily News, a wonderful profile of the drama programs in our high school. That's a program that doesn't get a lot of recognition, and also one that was hit a lot by, the COVID and everything, that it talked about how those teachers have improvised to make that program great for those students. And of course, our teachers always do that. And I want to congratulate Miss Monroe at Choctaw, and Miss Zick at Crestview, and Mr. Blanks at Fort Walton Beach High School, and Mr. Jackson at Niceville High School for continuing to make it happen for those students. If you've ever been around the high school drama program, you know those students invest a lot of time and energy and are very dedicated to those programs. So it's exciting to see that profile today. Also, this is probably for the parents to note, the College Board has announced that the PSAT that was originally scheduled for 9th and 10th graders for October has been postponed to January. However, they're still going to host that in all our schools on October 14th for juniors, but the other one is going to be postponed. And of course, I'm going to shout out to my Baker Gators. They have now won 3 games in a row, and they just keep on doing great things. And since I happen to be up first and talking about football, this week is a unique week in that it is Friday will be the 50th meeting of the Choctaw Indians and the Fort Walton Beach Vikings. And I have to say that I was at that very first game, and I'm not going to admit how I was when I was at that very first game, unless my colleagues, Dr. White and Mr. Destin, who are also Choctaw grads, will admit it as well. If they will, I will. So that's all I have. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Well, I'll allow Dr. White to go first.
No, I'm a lot younger, actually.
Let's just say, we were a lot younger then.
I was only 3 when it started, so.
That's right.
Or 2, I'm sorry. Dr. Kelly, you're up next, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just say again, as I said at the workshop, that we do remember our Cox Hero Award students, and Okaloosa County had 33 of those Cox Award winners out of 84 that the Cox organization gave out across the Panhandle. So congratulations to Okaloosa County's 33 Cox Hero Award winning students. And then I'd just also like to thank certain members of our IT team for answering the several calls I made in the last week for members of the zone of my schools that I represent. They were on the ball and on time, and they're on it. So I appreciate that. Thank you, Dustin. And then lastly, I would just like to thank in advance members of our community that are realtors who belong to ECAR for consideration of their support of our School Sense Makes Sense campaign for our school's capital needs. I know that we are 36 days away from that referendum time now, and I think your support would be most meaningful. And just to let everyone know that I plan to be meeting with members of their group next week, providing them some information and answering some questions that they might have. So I just want to thank all the members of our community who have reached out to support that. And even though it's a citizen-led initiative, we've had any number of businesses and organizations to reach out and support us, and I'm very grateful for that. That's all I have, Chairman.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Kelly. And Dr. White.
Nothing tonight, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Thank you, sir. Mr. Destin.
Thank you, Chairman. I just want to take this opportunity to thank Ms. Schroeder and the district staff and our contact tracers for the pitched battle that they are waging to keep these schools open against this virus. I know because of privacy reasons we can't really go into details, but let me assure you without their actions, we would not be able to keep these schools open. And and I know the gentleman that spoke tonight and numerous calls and emails I've gotten who want things to go back to normal don't really understand how hard they're working to keep the schools open, and that this virus is not gone by any means. So I want to give them that thanks and keep up the good battle.
All right. And I just have one item here from the Florida School Boards Association. We received 960 masks from the Florida School Board Association. So board members, if it's all right with you, I say we just hand them over to Mr. Chambers and his staff and allow him to use them for he sees fit or his staff sees fit. Are y'all okay with that?
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you.
So now we'll move down to section 18, and this is the second part of public comment. And public comment in this portion is 2 minutes. And there is a 30-second delay, so we're going to wait just. Okay, so we'll go around the room. Ms. Scallon, Dr. Hale, Mr. Strong, Ms. Appleberg, Ms. Lightbourne, Mr. Horton. All right, this meeting's adjourned.